Hello and welcome. Namaste from New Delhi. You're watching DD India NewsHour. I'm Gautam Roy. Coming up over the next 1 hour. The DGMO says India remains prepared to take on any challenge thrown up by Pakistan and retaliate in case of violation of the stoppage of firing understanding a day before speaking to his counterpart. The DGMO also reveals how India's actions during and after Operation Sindoor killed over 100 terrorists, targeted Pakistan's multiple aerial sites, including its air headquarters in Chaklala next to Islamabad. DG Naval Ops says even Karachi is not out of India's reach. Defence Minister Rajnath Singh terms Operation Sindoor as not just a military action but a symbol of India's political, social and strategic willpower. And Volodymyr Zelenskyy says Ukraine is ready to meet Vladimir Putin for ceasefire talks, dubbing Russia's call for direct talks with Kyiv on the 15th of May as a positive sign. In a high-stakes development following the launch of Operation Sindoor, the Ministry of Defence held a joint press conference on Sunday to brief the nation on the operation's progress and strategic outlook. Addressing the media, DGMO Lieutenant General Rajiv Ghai said that those strikes across 9 terror hubs in Pakistan left more than 100 terrorists dead.
Those strikes across those 9 terror hubs left more than 100 terrorists killed, including high-value targets such as Yusuf Azhar, Abdul Malik Rauf and Mudassir Ahmed that were involved in the hijack of IC-814 and the Pulwama blast. The line of control was also violated soon after by Pakistan, and the erratic and rattled response of our enemy was apparent from the number of civilians, inhabited villages and religious sites such as Gurudwaras that were unfortunately hit by them, leading to a sad loss of lives. The Indian Air Force played a major part in these strikes by engaging some of these camps, and the Indian Navy provided wherewithal in terms of precision munitions.
And DGMO Lieutenant General Rajiv Ghai also said that Pakistan flew drones and aircraft into India's airspace all across the borders and made largely unsuccessful attempts to target numerous military infrastructure.
Operation Sindoor was conceptualized with a clear military aim to punish the perpetrators and planners of terror and to destroy their terror infrastructure. What I do not state here, of course, is the often stated determination of India and its intolerance to terror.
Also addressing the media, Air Marshal A.K. Bharti said that the aim of the 7th of May was to target terrorists and their infrastructure, not any other infrastructure, especially not Pakistani civilian or military establishments.
We carefully selected the targets, and out of the 9 selected targets, the target systems that were given to the Indian Air Force were the notorious training camps at Bhavalpur and Muridke, these being further from the international boundary. Through critical target system analysis, we analyzed what was to be done to annihilate these targets and plan to engage these targets with precision air-to-surface guided munitions so as to avoid collateral damage. On the 7th, our objective was to address these two terrorist camps, and that we did with precision. And thereafter, we maintained a robust air defense posture, because remember, our objective was to target the terrorists and terrorist infrastructure, not any other infrastructure, not the Pakistani military, not the Pakistani any other infrastructure.
And let me now bring in my colleague Nandita Dagar, who was there as part of this briefing, posed the question to the DGMO as well. Now, Nandita, hi. That was a very detail-heavy briefing with several pieces of telltale information on why Pakistan was compelled to initiate the call between the two DGMOs. Now, give us the biggest takeaways.
Yes, thank you, Gautam. The 3-4 important, major, significant highlights of this press briefing, of course, by the 3 representatives of the Army, Navy and Air Force, and in fact, they were the Directorate Generals of the operations of the Navy, Army and Air Force, and therefore they were in the know, they were in the thick of the things. So let me just tell you that the first thing that came out was that with political will, India's military capability superior to Pakistan was demonstrated, and through that a very, very harsh message was delivered to Pakistan that the fountainhead of terror that it is, not just for South Asia but for the entire world, India, at least India will not be a soft target for its terrorism anymore, because India has a strong political will, and India is showing zero tolerance for terrorism. And on the first day, 7th May, the first day of Operation Sindoor, on that night, India only targeted terrorist infrastructure, the 9 terrorist camps of Murid ke Bahawalpur, known terrorist camps of Lashkar-e-Toiba and Hizbul Mujahideen. Significantly, this press conference also brought about that through our intelligence agencies, we've learned that around 100, even more, but more than 100 terrorists have been killed in these strikes by India. Second major point that India emphasized, that India never targeted the military and civilian infrastructure at all of Pakistan, but it was only when subsequent to the first night of Operation Sindoor, when Pakistan resorted to aerial intrusions by drones, drones, unmanned aerial vehicles, kamikaze drones, and artillery shelling on villages, schools, hospitals, religious places, temples, etc., gurdwaras, and on civilian lives, when that they were lost, only then did India target Pakistani air bases, and that it did with very, very high precision, so that no collateral damage is caused. Chaklala air base, which is now known as the Noor Khan air base, is just 10 kilometers from Islamabad. It is the nerve center of operations of the Pakistani military aviation. It is a logistics hub, as well as a key ammunition and a hub for VVIP transport units of the Pakistani Air Force. That was targeted. So a very strong signal was sent. In fact, the before and after photos of these air bases, which was showed at the press conference, where precision targets of long-range missiles, when they targeted their runways, their hangars, their radar systems, their operation centers were rendered devastated, razed to the ground. There were before and after photos, and therefore that was documentary evidence for the entire, not just India, but the entire world to see that how Pakistan has been punished for its misadventures and its support to proscribed known terrorists, which have caused havoc around the world, including
certainly, Nandita. India has redefined its intolerance to terror. Now, you asked the DGMO a question about how, despite the understanding on stoppage of firing, Pakistan violated it on Saturday evening in multiple sectors. Now, how is this likely to figure in the talks the DGMOs are set to hold tomorrow, which is meant to ensure at least an extension of the understanding?
Yes, you're right. I asked this question. In fact, mine was the last question of the press briefing. And what the General Ghai, who is the Director General of Military Operations, he told us was that India had, of course, India cannot trust Pakistan. Even when yesterday Pakistan violated that agreement by launching multiple drones, unmanned aerial vehicles, Turkish Songer drones, Kamikaze biker drones, all across the frontage from the LOC in J&K to Punjab to Rajasthan to Gujarat, along the village, on the villages and on the along the borders. Even then, the Indian Army and Air Force air defense units and surface-to-air missile units and the men behind these machines were always ready, alert and vigilant. So India, of course, never was caught off guard. And he told what the reason that he gave was that you can never trust Pakistan, but obviously this is something that Pakistan has to answer for. But he thought that he supposes that maybe it could trickle down to the local formations from the top brass. The decision of that ceasefire agreement that was reached yesterday between the two DGMOs may not have taken place in that time period, and that is why they took place. Also, significantly, Gautam, our army chief reviewed the operational preparedness of our northern, western and southwestern army commanders. These are the local army commands, regional army commands who are responsible for the borders and the LOC in J&K, Punjab, Rajasthan, Gujarat. And they were given a free hand to engage in any adequate and befitting manner when Pakistan if in case Pakistan violates this agreement again.
And the DGMO, Nandita, also acknowledged the loss that India suffered, but also underlined the fact that Pakistan suffered losses in a much larger quantum.
Yes, apart from the 100 or so terrorists that were killed on the first night of Operation Sindoor, the Director General of Air Operations, Air Marshal Bharati, he said that it is we have done our job, we have met our objectives, we have completed, and we have with full precision, very, very high success rate, and with excellence, it is for Pakistan to count the dead bodies. Of course, we would get to know subsequently how many of their military people have got injured or killed. Also, the very, very important statement, Gautam, the Navy statement of intent. The Director General of Naval Operations, Vice Admiral Pramod, he, on being asked about these reports of Indian Navy bombing Karachi, he actually said this, and I quote him, that Indian Navy is in a deterrent and operationally ready, forward deployed mode, and it is capable of striking Karachi, which means that India is not letting its guard down. India is ready for any eventuality, and our air defense systems, from the S-400 to the Army air defense guns, to our electro-optic systems, to our men behind these machines, and the troops deployed on the post. All of them are ready to give a befitting and pulverizing blow to Pakistan in case it escalates, because India certainly did not start this.
All right, Nandita, thank you so much for that information, and that in a way sets the tone for the kind of talks that might be held tomorrow between the two DGMOs at noon. Also, what sets the tone is something that we've got for you according to sources which have made it clear that there will be no talks at the NSA level between India and Pakistan. That's one point that has clearly been made by sources. And as far as any other issues concerned, well, the talks will only be held at the level of the DGMOs, and there won't be any mediator in the talks with Pakistan, and the talks will also be in a very narrow sort of zone or domain, which is handing over of Pakistan occupied Kashmir or POJK, and of the terrorists who've been responsible for attacking India. Let me bring in my colleague Jessica Taneja as well now. Jessica, clearly we've made it very, very point blank to Pakistan that the course has been plotted for the way that India wants to engage with Pakistan only at the DGMO level, down a very narrow path without any wriggle room for India's slippery customer neighbor.
That's correct, Gautam, and it's also important to point out that India has said that it doesn't encourage, the traditional shuttle diplomacy as it has seen in the recent past as well when it comes to, engaging on a war waged by Pakistan on India in the past as well. So India has made it clear that it will act independently, as you also pointed out, that there will be no mediators. The next level of talks will take place tomorrow, so a lot more clarity will be provided on that. But other bilateral engagements and the diplomatic cutoff that was in place, particularly also related to the Indus Water Treaty, which the Indian side clearly maintains is also is going to get altered because of Pakistan's cross-border terrorism, and will play an integral role, especially because the fact that India has wanted to make certain changes in the Indus Water Treaty that was, in fact, inked in 1950, and there have been so many changes, not just related to climate, but also, demographic, and a lot of projects that India intended to build on its legitimate waters have been hampered by Pakistan because of their legal roadblocks that the Pakistan side has created for so many times, that India had wanted to make important changes and reforms in the Indus Water Treaty. So perhaps that also would come into play as far as conversation with other leaders, etc., and making sure that our allies and partners understand as to why India had chosen to strike militarily deep inside Pakistan, because, as we've been talking about, of those terror facilities. And the message again is clear in the future as well, and this is something India, through its senior officials, which includes the Indian External Affairs Minister, Dr. S. Jaishankar, have made it very clear to the leaders, world leaders, as well as their counterparts, that India's message is clear. If they shoot, India will shoot. If they talk, India will talk. But also remembering the fact that India was not the original escalator, and perhaps it's only responding to defend itself in a moment where it is struck by the Pakistan military now, on our military as well. So, a lot of that coming into play as well. But then the moment the conversation took place, things changed, as you and I both know.
Certainly. Jessica Tedesha, thank you for joining us from the newsroom there. And let's see how those talks go when the two DGMOs meet tomorrow, noon, Monday. Now, India's Defence Minister Rajnath Singh on Sunday praised Operation Sindoor, asserting that the Indian Armed Forces have delivered a decisive blow to anti-Indian elements inside Pakistan. He also said Operation Sindoor was not just a military action, but a symbol of India's political, social and strategic willpower.
Defence Minister Rajnath Singh hailed Operation Sindoor as a defining moment in India's fight against terrorism. He asserted that the operation was launched to destroy terrorist infrastructure in Pakistan and POK, and innocent civilians were not targeted.
भारतीय सेनाओं ने ऑपरेशन सिंदूर को पाकिस्तान में मौजूद आतंकी ढांचा ढहाने के उद्देश्य से लॉन्च किया था। हमने उनके आम नागरिकों को कभी निशाना नहीं बनाया था, मगर पाकिस्तान ने न केवल भारत के नागरिक इलाकों को निशाना बनाया, बल्कि मंदिर, गुरुद्वारा, गिरजाघर पर भी हमले करने का प्रयास किया। भारतीय सेना ने शौर्य और पराक्रम के साथ साथ संयम का भी परिचय देते हुए पाकिस्तान के अन्य ठिकानों पर भी प्रहार करके करारा जवाब दिया है।
India's Defence Minister said Operation Sindoor's impact has not only shaken the borders of Pakistan but reached till Rawalpindi.
भारतीय सेना ने शौर्य और पराक्रम के साथ साथ संयम का भी परिचय देते हुए पाकिस्तान के अन्य ठिकानों पर भी प्रहार करके करारा जवाब दिया है। हमने केवल सीमा से सटे सैन्य ठिकानों पर ही नहीं कार्रवाई की, बल्कि भारत की सेनाओं की धमक उस रावलपिंडी तक सुनी गई, जहां पाकिस्तानी फौज का हेडक्वार्टर मौजूद है।
Defence Minister termed Operation Sindoor as a proof that whenever India acts against terrorism, even the land across the border is not safe for terrorists and their masters.
भारत में आतंकवादी घटनाएं करने और कराने का क्या अंजाम होता है, यह पूरे विश्व ने उरी की घटना के बाद देखा, जब हमारी सेना ने पाकिस्तान में घुसकर सर्जिकल स्ट्राइक की। पुलवामा के बाद देखा, जब बालाकोट पर एयर स्ट्राइक की गई, और अब पहलगाम की घटना के बाद दुनिया देख रही है कि जब भारत ने पाकिस्तान के भीतर घुसकर मल्टीपल स्ट्राइक्स की हैं, आतंकवाद के खिलाफ जीरो टॉलरेंस की नीति पर चलते हुए हमारे यशस्वी प्रधानमंत्री श्री नरेंद्र मोदी ने स्पष्ट कर दिया है कि यह नया भारत है जो आतंक के खिलाफ सरहद के इस पार और उस पार दोनों तरफ प्रभावी कार्रवाई करेगा। यह हमारे प्रधानमंत्री जी ने स्पष्ट रूप से यह संदेश दे दिया है।
India launched Operation Sindoor on May 7th in reply to the ghastly terror attack in Pahalgam on April 22nd that claimed the lives of 26 people. India had struck 9 terror sites in Pakistan and Pakistan occupied Jammu and Kashmir. Bureau Report, DD India.
With markets reopening, normalcy has been returning to border areas of India in Jammu and Kashmir, Punjab, Gujarat and Rajasthan day after an understanding was reached between India and Pakistan. The security establishment also remains on the alert. More details in this report.
The situation in border areas of India is returning to normal a day after an agreement of understanding was reached between India and Pakistan. In Jammu and Kashmir, no drones, firing or shelling activity were reported during the intervening night of May 10th and 11th. In Srinagar, markets were bustling as shoppers returned. Calm also prevailed close to the line of control in Poonch and Rajouri. People resumed daily activities in several Punjab districts including Firozpur and Pathankot. Markets have also reopened in Shaheed Bhagat Singh Nagar. Red alert continues in Amritsar district with authorities urging residents to remain indoors and avoid windows. Power supply has been restored for public convenience. In Rajasthan, no hostile movements or airspace violations were detected overnight. The state's security establishment remains on alert. The situation also remained normal in Gujarat, where state headquarters and district administrations conducted a review meeting to assess and reinforce preparedness. Bureau Report, DD India.
Let's get a live input on that. Joining me now from Srinagar, that's the capital of the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir, my colleague Vishal Baristo, and from Kutch in Gujarat, another state in India's west, which has a border with the international border with Pakistan, is Meghna Dev. First to you, Vishal. We saw when the first violations of that understanding came, they came last evening in and around Srinagar. How's the situation now?
A very good evening to you, Gautam. As I speak to you, I'm still reminded of 24 hours back story and what was the scene there in the sky. And we were all very, very scared, and it was quite a surprise because a few minutes back, a few hours before, an agreement was announced, and now we could see the skies blaring with the anti-defense guns. But today it's been a normal day, and whole day there was no activity of any kind of intrusion either in the sky or on the land. And as I speak to you, the lights are on, the power supply is on. The markets, you must have seen my story, which I reported in the morning. They were open, so it's quite normal. Kashmir is slowly coming back to normal, but apprehensions are always there. Any kind of noise or sound disturbs the peace of the valley. So people are still very much apprehensive, and we are still on guards. You must have heard the briefing of the Directorate of Military Intelligence, and all the three services DGMOs were there, and they are saying that Operation Sindoor is not over. It's still on. The Air Force is fully on the fully alert and in operational mood. Let me tell you that Navy is also in the operational mood. In fact, Navy was deployed towards the northern Arabian Sea.
Yes.
And also the Army Chief also held the conference of the commanders, and he has given full instructions that in any kind of eventuality, a kinetic attack is always on.
Yes, certainly, Vishal. That is the byword now, and I guess the byword where you are, Meghna, in Kutch, Gujarat, is caution. I can see that your tally light in the camera is off. So blackout pretty much in force.
Yes, Gautam, while today was pretty normal in entire Kutch, I am currently here in Bhuj, one of the cities in Kutch district, and we had seen the entire day was very normal. In the evening, people and in the municipality here and the corporation and administration took a decision that just a preventive measure and just for caution, they have, they are observing a blackout. But what we are also seeing is that since yesterday night, I believe after 10 p.m. onwards, there has been no sirens blaring till now. And what we have also seen is that sirens, and besides that, there has been no such reports of any kind of intrusion that have or drones being sighted that have come till now. Besides, as I told you, yesterday as well, that not only the land borders which we are talking about, with Kutch, Banaskantha, Patan, there are also obviously the huge coastline that Gujarat has, and the kind of vigil that is being maintained by Navy, Coast Guard, Marine Police, Marine Task Force Commandos, for that matter. Then the patrolling is constantly being done, and when we also say that these kind of blackouts and especially the things have been returning to normalcy, we are also been seeing that people are complying to whatever the administration is saying. So that is pretty much clear that besides the entire day was normal today, people are observing for caution. They are observing this kind of blackout today. So we'll definitely have to see how tomorrow unfolds, because as said, there's a scheduled talk of DGMOs of both countries. So we'll have to see what rolls out after that. But definitely the forces have been clearly saying, and our army has been clearly saying, that any kind of adverse eventuality will be met with an adequate kinetic action. So definitely there is a lot of vigil. Forces are on alert, and what we also see is that people are very much complying with whatever instructions they are being given by the administration.
Yes, that certainly makes sense, because everybody has the best interest of the people in their minds when they give out these sort of advisories and instructions. Thanks a lot for joining us with that report. Meghna Dev from Bhuj, from Kutch in Gujarat, I beg your pardon, and we have also had Vishal Baristo with us from Srinagar. Thank you. And still to come on DD India NewsHour, we'll be speaking with our two expert guests about what they make of how India forced Pakistan to wave the white flag in the aftermath of Operation Sindoor, and how it has set the agenda for tomorrow's DGMO level talks. New Zealand's Prime Minister proposes social media ban for those under 16. And crowds cheer as the newly appointed Pope holds first Sunday address. Welcome back. You're watching DD India NewsHour. I'm Gautam Roy. Now let's return to the top story, something that we have been tracking very closely for over the last 4 days, which is Operation Sindoor and its aftermath. And we've heard a lot of details about the outcome of that aftermath, which saw India taking kinetic action against Pakistan because it was just not learning any lessons even after terror bases had been hit by India in mainland Pakistan. Now to talk about it, we have with us Major General Ashok Kumar, retired, well-known defence expert, and we also have with us Praful Ketkar, editor, organizer, joining us as well. Good evening to you both. If I could come to you, Ankumar, first, just tell us, tomorrow we have those key talks. Once the DGMO spoke at the initiative of the Pakistani DGMO to come to this understanding of stoppage of this action that had been taking place, military action, and now a way has to be figured out to take things forward to ensure that what had happened in the past, especially the recent past, is not repeated. Has India, through its action, really set the agenda for those talks?
Am I to respond?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Gautam. This is a very, very important issue you have raised. If you monitor the events very clearly, once this Pahalgam incident happened on 22nd of April, it was made very clear from entire establishment of the India, including the Prime Minister himself, that we shall target the terrorist infrastructure and also those people who are supporting them. And it was very, very clear, given the history, the way we had responded post Uri in terms of the ground surgical strikes, post Ulwama in form of air strikes. So this time we have taken it to a different level altogether. But as the aim was only targeted towards the terrorists and their infrastructure, we made a very, very calibrated and coordinated attack from all the forces. Predominantly while Navy was ready, but the Army and Air Force resources were utilized, and the targets were struck on 7th May morning, wherein we destroyed the targets not only in the Pakistani occupied Kashmir across the line of control, but also took to the headquarters of Lashkar-e-Taiba and JEM in Bahawalpur and Muridke, which has resulted in the killing of close to 100 terrorists, including some of the terrorists which were involved in the hijacking of IC-814, as well as in the killing of Daniel Pearl. And more authentications will come out as we go ahead in time. Having done that on 7th May in the morning, India's aim was already achieved. And India made a categorical statement that it has no intention whatsoever to enhance the escalation any further. And in that attack also, it never touched the civilians, nor it touched any military establishment. But sadly, Pakistan chose to act differently, and in night 7th, 8th, it launched close to 500 drones and number of other resources on India, all across the western border, leave aside the line of control, but also across the IB in the state of Punjab, Rajasthan and Gujarat. So India on one hand ensured that all these drones and the incoming targets are destroyed, but at the same time a strong retribution was given to Pakistan, and since their aims were targeted to the military targets, we also hit their air bases and other resources. And again next day we gave them a window of opportunity to de-escalate. But then Pakistan, its own misplaced sense of judgment, again did these things in the next night, and then thereafter our retribution was of unprecedented nature, which they would have not seen anywhere, anytime. And therefore, some kind of sense probably has prevailed, because this kind of losses they can't sustain, they cannot bear, wherein their DGMO spoke to our DGMO at 3:35 PM yesterday and requested for the stoppage of these firings, which was agreed, because India never wanted to escalate it at any stage. However, sadly, after 7 PM yesterday, there were some violations of this, verbal agreement in terms of some small arms firing and some drones being, set. However, India has maintained its restraint not to counteract on that. Of course, these resources were totally negated in the appropriate manner. And now the next meeting is scheduled on 12 o'clock on 12th of March, 12th of this month, wherein the modalities are going to be decided as to how the exact implementation and the nuances of these implementations are going to be worked out. Hopefully, this night is going to be critical. If Pakistan doesn't do anything wrong, tomorrow's meeting will go in the positive dispensation.
Certainly. I'd like to bring in Praful Ketkar as well, because Praful Ketkar, what has also happened is that India has made it clear through sources that this is the only thing that will happen. DGMO level talks, nothing else. Nobody else will be involved in these talks either, and the talks will be held in a very narrow sort of a defined parameters, which is that those terrorists who are responsible for hitting India through the decades, who've been harbored by Pakistan, they should be handed over, and India should also get back Pakistan occupied Jammu and Kashmir.
Gautam, we need to understand that post Pahalgam, what we have done, even though militarily we planned and executed operations on 7th night, just immediately after Pahalgam, we took some important decisions. One, we put the entire Indus Water Treaty in abeyance. Two, we reduced the diplomatic ties and strength in New Delhi. The
visas.
Pakistani diplomat. And three, we have also, revoked all visas of Pakistani nationals. Now, these were very important indicators that diplomatically we are not going to lie down and we are going to respond. We responded even through, the surgical strike that earlier we had taken were mainly in Pakistan occupied Jammu Kashmir. But now we have gone up to Punjab and in day before yesterday's air strikes almost up to Rawalpindi, which was a major lesson for. But all these actions were in retaliation to Pakistan's provocation. So we never, our military objective was very clear that we want to target the terror camps and terror infrastructure. So we have achieved our objective, but we are keeping our operations, our entire operation on, because until terrorism is over. So naturally, the scope of DGMO level discussion is limited to how to execute this stoppage of firing from both the sides, so that there is no further provocation or escalation. So that is going to be limited for that. So I think we need to clearly understand that as far as because we have made a doctrinal change when even before the official announcement of this stoppage of firing, when we said every act of terror will be considered as war, simply means for us now that we will not wait for military to officially do anything. Anything mishappening from Pakistani side, whether they're sponsored terrorists or their sleeper cells, everything will be considered as act of war. And hence, this Operation Sindoor is on. And still we are going for a negotiation at the military level. So military to military level, in non-contact warfare, we have achieved and shown our, the precision, the coordination, and still restraint through our military operation. But now when it comes to action against terrorism, as even during the press conference, DGMO rightly said, these actions will not be secret. Eventually, it will you will come to know. But and he stopped there. So that makes sense because militarily you need not have to roll out everything that you are planning to do.
Yes.
But it simply suggests that we are on high alert. We continue to be on high alert. The things that we have said on 7th of May has practically not changed.
Yes, I wanted to ask General Ashok Kumar about it as well. General Ashok Kumar, we always maintained, India always maintained that if you say that we need to stop, we will stop. If you send a bullet in our direction, we will send a cannonball. It was very clear. It said, "Goli marenge. Agar aap goli maroge, to hum gola marenge." So India has always adhered to it. So where is the scope for any other element coming in, a third party or anything, when it was always very clear how India wanted to conduct this? It always showed restraint. Its strikes were quite precise. There was almost zero collateral damage, and they still hurt Pakistan a lot. They hurt Pakistan to the extent that it was compelled to reach out and seek this understanding with India?
Absolutely, Gautam. If you see the response of India to this Pahalgam strike from 7th May onwards has been of unprecedented level, which has been acknowledged by the world. They have understood that India is in a different league altogether, and it will take all actions necessary in its national interest. If the terrorists are creating problem in India, so they and their supporters are going to be given a punishment, which thereafter will teach them a lesson not to repeat these things in future. It is beside the point that the entire Pakistani military establishment and their ISI are one side of the same coin of terrorism. So how much effect it finally has, that will be known in days to come, but a strong message has already gone. Second thing, I'm sure you would have noticed during the press briefing today that in case Pakistan does anything now, so far we have been trying for proportionate response, but this time it is going to be punitive response, and Operation Sindoor is still continuing. Third thing which has happened, that the army chief has spoken to all the army commanders. There was a video conferencing based meeting, and all stakeholders participated, and they have been given full freedom to take immediate action on any provocation by the Pakistan, whether it takes place across the line of control or in international border area,
right,
anywhere in the country. So therefore, and of course you would have heard Rajnath Singh ji when he has said, and also our establishment, that now any terrorist activity anywhere in India will be taken as an act of war. So now there is a national statement which is backed by the capability of all the three armed forces, which we have developed in a deliberate manner. In fact, for last 4 years, the trigger which was given by China, that was used to prepare our armed forces in a big way. Should that situation escalate, how do we respond? So our preparedness and the weaponry, arms and ammunition, everything is of a very, very high order.
Right.
We have also focused on the indigenous production of our defense equipment, which has also come very, very handy in the conflict which has taken place.
Okay.
So I think we are on a different orbit altogether as compared to Pakistan, and we are just praying that some good sense prevails in the Pakistani
right,
civilians and people,
yes,
that they put some sense to their military not to take such actions in future.
Okay. Praful Ketkar, with all that said, what happens next? How does India tackle Pakistan, very, very slippery customer, which a country which is our neighbor, which poses a tremendous problem, not just for India, but as we've seen, because the entire world and top leaders were concerned about what was happening between India and Pakistan, and they'd been urging ever since things started rolling out with Operation Sindoor that this should stop, and there should be some sort of a situation where perhaps one could try and return to peace.
See, Gautam, since the creation of Pakistan, what we need to understand is the first infiltration that took place was itself an act of war and an act of terrorism. So since then, Pakistan actually tried to use the leverage, and because of occupied territory of Jammu Kashmir, now 2-3 things India has made very clear, that we are not going to tolerate any act, and every time now we have made precision-based attacks. So without crossing the borders, we are getting the targets at our will whenever we want. Secondly, there is no role for third party, because the United Nations has already said that it is not on our agenda. Then India and Pakistan both have agreed that there is no scope for third party. So bilaterally we have to decide, and we made huge efforts, irrespective of who is in power. We have always made an effort to have some kind of dialogue and understanding. But when Pakistan officially, in fact, when their DGMO made the statement, he made a statement on Pulwama. So Pakistani army actually taking responsibility for Pulwama. So how can you say that So when the country has made terrorism as a part of foreign policy, and there I think the Western world and institutions like IMF will have to revisit. But next few days, Gautam, I feel that will be a very, very high level diplomatic maneuvering. Whatever happened at DGMO level,
there's that FATF meeting coming up as well.
It will be stoppage of firing. So the borders will be relatively calm, but diplomatically still it will be a very, very hot pursuit when it comes to the bilateral negotiations.
Certainly the FATF meeting is coming on again, and India, I believe, will be seeking the grey listing of Pakistan once again. But let's see how things go. Thank you so much for joining us and talking about it this evening, the two of you, Praful Ketkar as well as Major General Ashok Singh. Thank you. Now, Russian President Vladimir Putin is calling for direct peace talks with Ukraine, proposing a high-stakes summit in Istanbul on the 15th of this month. The announcement marks the most serious signal of diplomacy since talks broke down more than 2 years ago. But with deep mistrust on both sides and a fresh push from European leaders for an immediate ceasefire, the question remains, will this be a genuine step towards peace? Take a look.
Russian President Vladimir Putin on Sunday proposed holding direct talks with Ukraine in Istanbul on May 15. The Kremlin's surprise offer signals what could be the most serious push for diplomacy since negotiations collapsed over 2 years ago.
Let me remind you, it was not us who walked away from talks in 2022. It was Ukraine. Still, despite everything, we are ready to resume direct negotiations without any preconditions.
Putin said the goal is not just a temporary ceasefire, but a lasting peace, one that, in his words, addresses the root causes of the conflict. US President Donald Trump weighed in, posting on social media, "A potentially great day for Russia and Ukraine." Trump added he would continue to work with both sides to help bring the conflict to an end. This bold proposal comes just hours after European leaders, including UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer and French President Emmanuel Macron, visited Kiev, urging Moscow to accept an immediate 30-day unconditional ceasefire. But the Russian president pushed back, accusing Ukraine of ignoring 3 recent ceasefire proposals, a month-long halt to attacks on energy infrastructure, an Easter truce, and a symbolic pause during World War II commemorations. Ukraine, in turn, has consistently denied those claims. Moscow has similarly alleged violations by Kiev. With both sides trading blame and accusations, the stage is now set for a critical showdown, diplomacy versus distrust. May 15th could mark a critical moment for Eastern Europe, a chance for peace, or yet another missed opportunity. Bureau Report, DD India.
And Russian President Vladimir Putin and his Turkish counterpart Recep Tayyip Erdogan spoke over the phone on Sunday. The Kremlin said that both leaders discussed Putin's proposal to hold Russia-Ukraine peace talks in Istanbul on the 15th of May. Kremlin also said that Turkish President Erdogan fully supported Putin's proposal and was ready to host the talks in Istanbul. Erdogan told Putin that a comprehensive ceasefire would create the necessary environment for peace talks. New Zealand's Prime Minister Christopher Luxon has proposed a ban on social media for children under 16. The draft legislation would require social media companies to verify users' ages and impose fines for non-compliance. Our correspondent Soumya Sharma gets us the details as she speaks exclusively with Catherine Wedd, the party leader who introduced the bill.
In a bold move to tackle social media's growing influence on the youth, the ruling National Party in New Zealand is calling for a digital curfew. Their latest bill aims to keep the under-16s off social media.
Introduced by MP Catherine Wedd and backed by Prime Minister Christopher Luxon, the bill would unplug Kiwi teens from social media by putting the onus on tech platforms, requiring them to enforce age verification and impose penalties for non-compliance.
This bill is about protecting children from online harm, including bullying, addiction and exposure to inappropriate content by restricting social media access for under 16-year-olds.
This of course, has sparked debates around digital rights, parental control, and government regulation. Have you heard about the recent proposed bill that would restrict social media access to teenagers and individuals under 16? Have you guys heard of it?
Yeah.
And what do you think about it?
I think it's interesting that they're imposing this, but I think it'll be good for the mental health of teenagers, as it can lead to a lot of bullying and misleading in a lot of stuff.
What do you have to say about the whole story?
Well, I don't think, I think it's up to parents whether or not they let their child use the internet, and social media in particular can be dangerous for people under 16, but it's also can be super informative as well and can learn a lot on these things.
In an exclusive interview, we also caught up with the National Party MP who had put forward the bill. So my first question is, what made you sort of think that there should be an age restriction for individuals under 16?
Well, as a mother of 4 children, I think that we need more protections in place for parents to protect our children from online harms of social media. I'm hearing from parents and principals and teachers all the time that they are worried about the negative impacts of social media, which includes cyberbullying, exploitation, inappropriate content, and then of course there's the issues around mental health and anxiety. And so this bill is really about protecting our young children from online harm.
Who are the key players in this? I mean, who do you think takes the center stage? Do you think it's the parents? Do you think it's the individuals themselves, or the school, or the social media platforms themselves?
Well, of course, parents always have a responsibility, but we also think that social media companies have a social responsibility. And so this bill is mirrored on the Australian legislation, which will put the onus on social media companies to ensure that under 16-year-olds are not able to access and use social media.
While the debate unfolds, one thing is clear. How we guide our youth online today will definitely shape the society we stroll through tomorrow. This is Soumya Sharma from Wellington for DD India.
Now, India wants to play a bigger role in Europe's flower market, but getting there is no easy task. For Indian exporters, breaking into the system means overcoming some very real challenges: strict EU clarification rules, high air freight costs, and the need for cold chain infrastructure to keep flowers fresh during long-distance travel. Take a closer look.
India is one of the largest producers of flowers in the world. Roses, carnations, marigolds, orchids, grown in greenhouses and fields across the country, year-round. Recently, a delegation of Indian exporters visited the Netherlands to explore new trade routes and market access. Their focus? Direct entry into Europe's floral economy, and that starts just outside of Amsterdam. There, on the edge of a quiet Dutch town, stands the world's largest flower auction. A vast complex covering nearly 1 million square meters, bigger than 200 football fields. Every weekday mornings, millions of stems change hands here. This building is more than a marketplace. It's the beating heart of the global flower trade and the main gateway into Europe. With European growers facing rising energy prices and production costs, importers are looking for reliable alternatives. Indian producers believe their time has come, and they're seeking cooperation with Dutch logistic experts and policymakers to make it happen. The question now is whether Indian flowers can truly bloom in Europe, and whether this new partnership will take root. Mark Limburg reporting from the Netherlands for DD India.
Pope Leo XIV, the first pontiff from the United States, made his first official address to tens of thousands of devotees gathered at St. Peter's Square. And they applauded wildly and enthusiastically, waving flags. As the Pope did that, he offered introductory words of welcome and joy in greeting the pilgrims and visitors. Robert Francis Prevost, who before becoming pontiff spent much of his life as a missionary in Peru, held prayers for the priesthood, consecrated life and being at the service of one another. And earlier, Pope Leo XIV celebrated Mass on Sunday at the altar near the tomb of St. Peter in the Vatican grottos, marking a moment of prayerful reflection. The Vatican media said in a written statement, following the Mass, Pope Leo XIV spent time in a silent prayer at the tombs of his predecessors and paused before the niche of the paella. And you're watching DD India NewsHour. Time now to get to some sporting updates as well. Well, India's women's cricket team thrashed Sri Lanka by 97 runs to win the Tri-Nation Series on Sunday. Batting first, India put 342 runs on the board with opener Smriti Mandhana's ton and important contributions from Harleen Deol, Harmanpreet Kaur and Jemima Rodriguez. In response, Sri Lanka were bundled out for 245 as the Indian bowlers put in a well-rounded effort led by Sneh Rana, who notched up figures of 4 for 38 runs. India had won 3 of their 4 games en route to the final, besting South Africa twice and Sri Lanka once before the summit crash. All 3 teams will be featuring at the Women's Cricket World Cup later this year, with India hosting the tournament for the 4th time. In Sri Lanka's Numara area, arrangements for Monday's Vesak festival have been at full swing. The Vesak festival, which marks the birth, enlightenment and passing away of Gautam Buddha, is the most significant religious and cultural festival in the island nation. Streets, homes, temples and public spaces have been decorated with colorful lanterns and massive pandals depicting stories from Buddha's life. Sri Lankans observe the day by visiting temples for prayers, meditation and sermons. And that's all we have for this edition of DD India NewsHour, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. And for those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DD India's mobile app. It's available on both Android and iOS. You can scan the QR code on the screen to download the app right away. And we'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Gautam Roy, and from all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India NewsHour.